The guests gasped. One moment, Cora Rivera was cutting cake in her silk maternity dress, 8 months pregnant, glowing with joy. The next, handcuffs clinked around her wrists as detectives stormed the baby shower. Accused of stealing $2.3 million from her own children's charity, she was dragged away in front of her friends, family, and the man who set her up. Only one guest saw through the lies, and she's not done watching. They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes with a kiss. Cora's came with a baby shower and a pair of handcuffs. Let's pull back the curtain. The Rivera baby shower was the social event of the season in their affluent community. The ballroom of the Grand Harbor Hotel had been transformed into a fairy tale garden. Cora wore a custom-made maternity dress in soft blush silk that complemented her glowing complexion and dark hair, which fell in gentle waves around her shoulders. At 8 months pregnant, she moved with the careful grace of a woman carrying precious cargo, one hand often resting protectively on her rounded belly. "You look beautiful," Samuel whispered in her ear as he guided her through the crowd of admirers. He kept his hand at the small of Cora's back, the picture of a protective, devoted husband. "I can't believe you arranged all this," Cora said. "It's too much." "Nothing is too much for you and our little one," Samuel replied, his voice carrying just enough for nearby guests to hear and smile approvingly at the sweet sentiment. Jennifer Torres, Cora's best friend and co-founder of the children's charity, approached with a champagne flute of sparkling water. "For the mommy-to-be," she said, handing it to Cora with a wide smile. "How are you feeling?" "I'm wonderful," Cora replied, accepting the drink. "Though the baby's been kicking up a storm today, I think she knows it's a party in her honor." Jennifer laughed, tossing her sleek blonde hair over one shoulder. "She's going to be a dancer, just like her mom." Cora smiled at the reference to her past as a professional dancer before she'd shifted to nonprofit work. Maybe, though with Samuel's business sense, she might be negotiating real estate deals by kindergarten. Samuel chuckled and squeezed her shoulder. "I need to greet the Andersons. They just arrived. Will you be okay for a few minutes?" "Of course," Cora assured him. As Samuel moved away, Jennifer linked her arm through Cora's. "Come on, there are at least a dozen people who've brought gifts they're dying to show you personally." The next hour passed in a blur of congratulations, cooing over tiny baby clothes, and fielding the usual questions about names, due dates, and nursery colors. Dr. Sarah Garcia, as Cora's gynecologist for the past 8 months, she had a professional interest in her patients' well-being, but there was something more, a quiet watchfulness that went beyond medical concern. She sipped her champagne slowly, declining to join the clusters of guests competing for the expectant mother's attention. When Cora briefly excused herself from a conversation to sit down, Dr. Garcia approached. "How are you feeling, Cora?" "Truthfully, not the answer you give everyone else." "I'm okay, Dr. Garcia. Just a little foggy today. I didn't sleep well last night." The doctor nodded, her eyes assessing. "The 3rd trimester can be challenging. Are you still taking the prenatal vitamins I prescribed?" "Religiously," Cora confirmed. "Samuel makes sure I never miss a dose. He's been so attentive, sometimes I think he's more nervous about this pregnancy than I am." Dr. Garcia's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. "That's good. Supportive partners make all the difference." She paused, then added carefully, "If you're experiencing any unusual symptoms, fogginess, confusion, unusual fatigue beyond normal pregnancy tiredness, please let me know right away." Cora looked slightly puzzled. "Is that something I should be worried about?" Before Dr. Garcia could answer, Samuel appeared at Cora's side. "Everything okay here, ladies? Medical consultations during the party, Dr. Garcia?" His tone was light, joking, but his eyes held a flicker of something harder. "Just checking on my patient," Dr. Garcia replied evenly. Samuel smiled. "Well, I need to steal my wife away. It's time for the cake cutting." The cake cutting was met with applause and cheers. Photographers captured the perfect moment, the beautiful couple, the expectant mother's radiant smile, the proud father's protective stance. Everything was picture perfect. The double doors at the entrance to the ballroom swung open with enough force to silence the string quartet mid-note. 4 uniformed police officers entered, followed by 2 plainclothes detectives. "Cora Rivera?" one of the detectives asked, though it was clear she already knew the answer. Cora nodded. "Yes? What's going on?" "I'm Detective Ramirez with the Financial Crimes Division. We have a warrant for your arrest." The detective's voice was professionally neutral. Samuel stepped forward, his expression darkening. "There must be some mistake. My wife is 8 months pregnant. Whatever this is about—" "Sir, please step back," one of the uniformed officers instructed firmly. Detective Ramirez continued, addressing Cora directly. "You're under arrest for embezzlement of funds from the Rivera Children's Foundation in the amount of $2.3 million, wire fraud, and falsifying financial records." "This is insane," she whispered, her voice trembling. I would never. I founded that charity. Those children are my life's work. You have the right to remain silent." Detective Ramirez continued, nodding to one of the uniformed officers who stepped forward with handcuffs. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. This is outrageous. My wife is about to give birth. You can't seriously intend to handcuff a pregnant woman at her own baby shower." "Sir, we're following procedure," Detective Ramirez replied firmly. "We can discuss accommodations for her condition at the station, but the arrest will proceed." The cold metal clicked around Cora's wrists. Several guests had phones out now, recording the shocking scene. Tears streamed down Cora's face as she looked desperately at her husband. "Samuel, I didn't do this. I would never steal from the foundation. You know that." "Of course you didn't, mi amor. This is a terrible mistake." He turned to Detective Ramirez. "I'm calling our lawyer right now. This will be cleared up immediately." As the officers began to lead Cora away, the shock in the room gave way to buzzing whispers. Some guests looked horrified, others disgusted. "I always thought it was strange how that charity grew so quickly," one woman murmured to another. "2 million in donations last year alone. That's tempting for anyone." "Those poor children," another guest said. "Using a children's charity as a personal piggy bank, how could she?" Jennifer Torres pushed through the crowd, her face a picture of disbelief. "Cora, this can't be happening." She reached for her friend's hand. "I didn't do it, Jen," Cora called back, her voice breaking. "I swear on our friendship, on my baby's life." As Cora was escorted through the parting crowd, Dr. Garcia stood very still, her eyes not on the arrested woman but on the reactions around the room. She noted Samuel's performance of outrage, the way his hand briefly squeezed Jennifer's shoulder as she passed him. She observed how quickly some guests shifted from admiration to condemnation, how rehearsed some of the shocked expressions appeared. Samuel followed the officers to the door. "Be careful with her. She's carrying our child. I'll meet you at the station, Cora. Don't worry." As the doors closed behind the officers and their devastated prisoner, Samuel turned back to the stunned crowd. "I apologize to everyone for this disturbing interruption," he announced, his voice steady and authoritative. "Clearly, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I assure you all, my wife is innocent of these ridiculous charges. I'll be heading to the police station immediately to sort this out. I would appreciate your discretion regarding what you've witnessed today. Cora's reputation doesn't deserve to be tarnished by false accusations and sensationalized stories." Despite his plea, several guests were already typing furiously on their phones, no doubt sharing the scandalous news across social media. As Samuel made his way toward the exit, shaking hands and accepting words of support from business associates, Jennifer Torres fell into step beside him, her expression appropriately distressed. "Samuel, this is a nightmare," she said, loud enough to be heard by nearby guests. "I need to come with you to the station. As co-founder of the charity, maybe I can help clear this up." "Thank you, Jennifer," Samuel replied gravely. "Your support means everything right now." Dr. Garcia watched this exchange from across the room, her expression unreadable. She finished her champagne in one deliberate swallow, set the glass down, and slipped quietly out a side door, unnoticed in the chaos of the dissolving party. Outside, in the relative quiet of her car, Dr. Sarah Garcia pulled out her phone and dialed a number few people knew she possessed. "It's Garcia," she said when the call connected. "They've made their move, earlier than we expected." She paused, listening to the voice on the other end. "Yes, I'll stay close to the situation, but we need to accelerate our timeline. The baby complicates things considerably." She ended the call and sat for a moment, looking at the hotel entrance where police cruisers had been parked just minutes before. "Hold on, Cora," she murmured to herself. "This is going to get worse before it gets better, but I won't let them win." Meanwhile, in the back of a police cruiser, Cora Rivera sat in stunned silence, handcuffs cutting into her wrists, her baby kicking vigorously. Tears streamed down her face as she stared out the window at the beautiful venue. "I didn't do this," she whispered, though there was no one listening. "I would never steal from those children." But as the police station came into view, a terrible thought occurred to her. What if the evidence was so convincing that no one would believe her? What would happen to her baby if she gave birth in prison? The thought was so horrifying that she began to tremble uncontrollably, prompting concerned glances from the officers in the front seat. "Ma'am, are you having contractions?" one asked, suddenly worried about the prospect of delivering a baby in the back of his squad car. "No," Cora managed through chattering teeth. "Just scared. Please, I need to talk to my husband and my lawyer." "You'll be able to make your calls at the station," the officer assured her, though his tone lacked conviction. As the car pulled into the station's secure entrance, Cora closed her eyes and tried to center herself. For her baby's sake, she needed to stay calm and clear-headed. The holding cell at the Financial Crimes Division was a stark contrast to the elegant ballroom Cora had been in just hours before. At least they had removed the handcuffs, a small mercy given her condition. Cora sat on the bench, her back aching, trying to process the nightmare that had suddenly become her reality. The cell door opened, and Detective Ramirez entered, accompanied by a uniformed female officer. "Your lawyer is here, Mrs. Rivera. We'll be conducting the interview in room 3. Cora stood carefully, one hand supporting her lower back. "Has my husband arrived?" "Not yet," Ramirez replied, "but your lawyer said he's been notified and is on his way." Joshua Kim was waiting in the interview room, his expression grave but determined. At 38, he was one of the top criminal defense attorneys in the city, known for his meticulous preparation and unflappable courtroom demeanor. "Cora," he greeted her, standing as she entered. "I came as soon as Samuel called. Are you all right? Do you need medical attention?" "I'm okay," Cora assured him, easing into the chair across from him. Just in shock. "Joshua, I didn't do this. I would never steal from the foundation." "We'll get to that. First, I need to inform you that this interview is being recorded, and Detective Ramirez will be asking you questions. My advice is to say nothing beyond confirming your identity. We need to understand what evidence they have before we respond to anything." Detective Ramirez entered and took a seat. "Mrs. Rivera, I understand this is a difficult situation, particularly given your condition. If you need a break at any point, please let me know." Cora nodded silently. "For the record, you are Cora Rivera, founder and executive director of the Rivera Children's Foundation, correct?" "Yes," Cora confirmed. "Mrs. Rivera, we have substantial evidence indicating that over the past 18 months, you diverted approximately $2.3 million from the foundation's accounts to offshore accounts and personal use. Would you like to explain how that happened?" Joshua interjected. "My client will not be answering questions about the allegations at this time. We request full disclosure of the evidence against her." Detective Ramirez seemed to have expected this. "Very well. We have bank records showing transfers from the foundation's main account to a series of shell companies, which then transferred the funds to an account in the Cayman Islands. Each of these transfers bears your digital signature, Mrs. Rivera. The authentication logs confirm they were executed from your office computer using your security credentials." "That's impossible. I never authorized these transfers." Joshua shot her a warning glance, but she continued, leaning forward to examine the records more closely. "These dates, look at this one from March 15th. I was at a doctor's appointment that afternoon. I couldn't have been in my office authorizing a transfer at 2:45 p.m. We've examined the security logs from your office building. Your key card was used to access the executive floor at 2:32 p.m. on March 15th, and we have security camera footage." She slid across a series of still images captured from security cameras. They showed Cora entering the building, taking the elevator, and walking down the hallway to her office, timestamp 2:32 p.m. on March 15th. "That's not possible. I was with Dr. Garcia at Women's Health Partners from 2:00 to 3:30 that day. She did an ultrasound. We found out the baby is a girl. We'll verify that alibi, but this is just one of 17 unauthorized transfers. Were you at doctor's appointments for all of them?" Cora looked desperately at Joshua. "These records are falsified, or the timestamps on the security footage have been altered." Joshua placed a calming hand on her arm. "We'll investigate all possibilities, Cora." "Detective, what other evidence do you have?" Detective Ramirez continued. "We've traced some of the embezzled funds to a personal account in Mrs. Rivera's name at First National Bank. Approximately $650,000 has been deposited into this account over the past year, in amounts just under $10,000 to avoid triggering automatic reporting requirements." She pushed forward bank statements. "Is this your signature on the account opening documents, Mrs. Rivera?" "No. I mean, it looks like my signature, but I didn't open this account. I've never seen these statements before." "We also have evidence that funds from this account were used to purchase luxury items, jewelry, designer clothing, and a down payment on a vacation property in Belize. The credit card is in your name, and the property documents bear your signature." "I don't own property in Belize. I don't have this credit card." The door to the interview room opened, and Samuel rushed in, his expression a perfect blend of concern and outrage. "Cora, I'm so sorry it took me this long." "Mr. Rivera," Detective Ramirez acknowledged him. "We're in the middle of an interview." "I understand, Detective, but my wife is 8 months pregnant and has been through a traumatic experience today. I'd like to request that this interview be continued tomorrow." Joshua nodded his agreement. "Given Mrs. Rivera's condition, I believe that's a reasonable request." "Very well, but Mrs. Rivera will need to surrender her passport, and we'll be requesting that bail be set with conditions." "Of course," Samuel agreed immediately. "Whatever is necessary. My wife is innocent, and we intend to prove it." Samuel leaned down to whisper in Cora's ear. "Don't worry, mi amor. We'll fight this together." I know you would never do something like this." An hour later, after processing and a bail hearing where the judge set bail at $1 million, which Samuel paid immediately, Cora was free to go home. But as they walked out of the police station, reporters were waiting, cameras flashing and questions being shouted from all directions. "Mrs. Rivera, did you steal from your own charity? Cora, what do you have to say to the children who won't receive services because of your theft?" Samuel shielded Cora from the cameras, guiding her quickly to their waiting car where a driver held the door open. Once inside, Cora finally broke down, sobs racking her body as the full impact of the day hit her. "Samuel, I didn't do any of this. The signatures, the security footage, it's all fabricated." Samuel pulled her into his arms. "I know, mi amor. I believe you." She whispered against his chest. "Who would do this to me? And why?" "I don't know," Samuel replied, his voice hardening. "But I'll spend every penny we have to clear your name." When they arrived home, the elegant mansion they'd purchased just a year ago felt different, less like a sanctuary, and more like another stage set for a performance Cora hadn't realized she was part of. Samuel led her to their bedroom, where he had already laid out comfortable clothes for her. "You should rest," he said, his tone gentle. "I'll bring you some tea and something to eat." Cora changed out of the ruined silk dress. As she slipped into the loose cotton dress Samuel had selected, she caught sight of herself in the full-length mirror, pale, tear-stained, her eyes haunted. How did this happen? Samuel returned with a tray bearing chamomile tea and toast with honey. "Your favorite," he said. Cora accepted the tea gratefully. "Have you spoken to Joshua since we left the station?" "He's already working on it," Samuel assured her, sitting beside her on the bed. "He's requested all the evidence for independent verification, and he's reaching out to character witnesses, people who can testify to your integrity and dedication to the foundation." "What about Jennifer?" Cora asked suddenly. "She's co-founder of the charity. She has the same access to the accounts that I do. Has anyone questioned her?" "Jennifer is devastated by all this. She was still at the station when I left, voluntarily answering questions to help clear your name. She has access to my digital signature for official foundation documents," Cora mused, sipping the tea. "And she knows my schedule when I have doctor's appointments." "Cora, you can't seriously be suggesting that Jennifer, your best friend, would frame you for embezzlement. I'm not accusing her. I'm just thinking about who would have the access and knowledge to do this. I understand you're looking for answers, but let's leave the investigation to Joshua and his team. Right now, you need to focus on staying calm for the baby's sake." Cora nodded, suddenly feeling very tired. The tea was making her drowsy, its warmth spreading through her limbs, making her eyelids heavy. "You're right. I'm just so scared, Samuel. What if they don't believe me? What if I go to prison?" "That won't happen," Samuel said firmly. "Won't let it happen. Now lie down and rest." Cora obediently lay back against the pillows, too exhausted to argue. As sleep began to claim her, she felt Samuel's hand gently stroke her hair and heard him murmur, "Everything will work out exactly as it should, mi amor." The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal consultations, evidence reviews, and increasingly panicked realizations. The case against Cora was meticulously constructed, with layers of seemingly irrefutable evidence. Joshua Kim worked tirelessly, but even he seemed increasingly concerned as more evidence mounted. "They have transaction records, security footage, and bank accounts with your signature, Cora." "But I never opened those accounts," Cora insisted, her hands protectively cradling her now 9 months pregnant belly. "I never made those transfers." "The question is who," Joshua said thoughtfully, "and why?" Samuel spoke up. "It could be a former employee with a grudge, or someone who was denied assistance from the foundation. We've made enemies in our business dealings over the years." "Perhaps," Joshua acknowledged, "but this level of sophistication suggests knowledge and significant resources." "What about technical evidence?" Cora asked desperately. "The digital signatures, the security footage. Can't experts tell if they've been tampered with?" "We've hired the best forensic experts," Joshua assured her, "but preliminary results aren't encouraging." "So what happens now?" "The prosecution has officially filed charges. Grand larceny, wire fraud, falsifying business records. We have the arraignment next week, where you'll enter your plea." "Not guilty," Cora said firmly. "Of course," Joshua agreed. "But Cora, I need to prepare you. The evidence is compelling. The prosecutor is seeking the maximum penalty, 15 to 20 years. The words hit her like a physical blow. 20 years? My baby will be in college by then." Samuel pulled her close, his arm around her shoulders. "That won't happen. We'll fight this with everything we have." Joshua nodded. "One more thing. The prosecutor mentioned they're considering adding charges related to breach of fiduciary duty and betrayal of public trust." "That's absurd!" Cora's voice rose in outrage. "I founded the Rivera Children's Foundation because I care about underprivileged children. We've helped thousands of kids access education, healthcare, stable housing. They're trying to establish a motive," Joshua explained calmly. "And unfortunately, the timing works against us. The Foundation's rapid growth over the past 2 years coincides with the timeline of the alleged embezzlement. The Foundation grew because we worked tirelessly to secure grants and donations, because we delivered real results for children in need, because—" She stopped suddenly, a sharp pain cutting through her abdomen. "Cora?" Samuel was on his feet instantly, moving to her side. "What is it, the baby?" Another pain gripped her, stronger this time. Cora nodded. "We need to get you to the hospital," Samuel said. "Joshua, we'll have to continue this later. Of course, keep me updated. And Cora," he added, his professional demeanor softening slightly, "try not to worry about the case right now. Focus on bringing your daughter safely into the world." But as Samuel helped her to the car, worry was all Cora could feel, not just about the case, but about what it meant for her child. Would she spend her daughter's precious first years behind bars? The contractions increased in frequency and intensity during the drive to the hospital. By the time they arrived at the emergency entrance, Cora was panting through waves of pain that came every 5 minutes. The hospital staff moved efficiently, getting her into a wheelchair and up to the maternity ward. Dr. Sarah Garcia was already waiting. "Cora, let's get you into a room and see how far along you are." Samuel stayed close, playing the role of concerned husband perfectly. To anyone observing, he was the picture of a supportive partner. But Dr. Garcia noticed how his eyes followed her every move, how he positioned himself to hear every exchange between doctor and patient. After examining Cora, Dr. Garcia confirmed she was in active labor, already 5 centimeters dilated. "Your body is working efficiently. First babies often take their time, but you're progressing well." "How long?" Cora asked between contractions. "Hard to say exactly," Dr. Garcia replied honestly. "But based on your progress, I'd estimate your daughter will be here within 8–10 hours. Samuel stepped out briefly to make some calls, and Dr. Garcia took the opportunity to speak privately with Cora. "I've heard about your legal situation," she said quietly, adjusting the fetal monitor. "How are you holding up?" Tears filled Cora's eyes. "They're going to take her away from me, aren't they? Once she's born." "Your case hasn't gone to trial yet, Cora, and the legal system generally tries to keep mothers and newborns together when possible, even in difficult circumstances. The evidence against me is overwhelming," Cora whispered, another contraction building. "I believe you," Dr. Garcia said simply, holding Cora's gaze. Something in the doctor's tone, in the steadiness of her dark eyes, gave Cora a moment of comfort before the contraction claimed her attention. "Right now, your job is to bring this baby safely into the world," Dr. Garcia continued, checking the monitor readings. The next 8 hours were a blur of increasing pain, focused breathing, and the strange timelessness of labor. Cora moved between the bed and a birthing ball, walked the hallways with Samuel's support, and eventually settled into the rhythmic work of bringing her daughter into the world. Throughout it all, Dr. Garcia remained a calm, reassuring presence, guiding Cora through the process with quiet competence. When the time came to push, Cora found strength she didn't know she possessed. Despite her exhaustion, despite the emotional trauma of the past weeks, her body knew what to do. "I can see her head," Dr. Garcia announced after a particularly effective push. "She has dark hair just like her mother." Cora sobbed with a mixture of pain and joy. Samuel stood by her side, his expression a complex blend of emotions too rapid to identify. "One more big push, Cora," Dr. Garcia instructed. With a primal cry, Cora bore down one last time, feeling the incredible sensation of her child slipping from her body and into the waiting hands of her doctor. "Here she is," Dr. Garcia said warmly, placing the squirming, vernix-covered newborn on Cora's chest. "Your perfect little girl." Cora's tears flowed freely as she cradled her daughter against her skin, marveling at the tiny fingers, the button nose, the dark hair matted to her head. "Hello, my love," she whispered. The baby's cries softened as she felt her mother's warmth, her eyes squinting open briefly before closing again. Samuel leaned in. "She's beautiful," he said, his voice oddly detached. "What will you name her?" "Kate," Cora answered without hesitation. "Kate Grace Rivera." Dr. Garcia supervised the cutting of the umbilical cord, allowing Samuel to perform the symbolic act. The nurses helped with the delivery of the placenta and the initial assessments of the newborn while Cora held her daughter, memorizing every detail of her perfect face. These precious moments, the first time holding her child, feeling the weight of that tiny body against her chest, inhaling the unique scent of her newborn, Cora knew they might have to sustain her through unimaginable separation. The thought brought fresh tears, and she held Kate closer. The hospital allowed Cora 3 days with Kate, 3 days of constant contact, of learning to breastfeed, of counting fingers and toes over and over, of whispering promises and lullabies. Samuel was present but strangely distant, spending much of his time on his phone or speaking with visitors in the hallway outside Cora's room. On the morning of the 4th day, as Cora was preparing for discharge, 2 uniformed officers appeared at her hospital room door. Behind them stood a grim-faced Joshua Kim. "I'm sorry, Cora," he said. "The judge has revoked your bail based on new evidence. They believe you're a flight risk." "What new evidence?" Cora demanded, clutching Kate to her chest. "They found a reservation in your name for a flight to Belize, scheduled for tomorrow," Joshua explained, "and additional funds have been transferred offshore in the past week." "That's impossible," Cora cried. "I've been in the hospital having a baby." The female officer stepped forward. "Mrs. Rivera, we have a warrant for your arrest. We need you to come with us." "My baby," Cora pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "She's only 3 days old. She needs me." "The court has issued temporary custody to your husband. We've been instructed to allow you to say goodbye." Samuel appeared. "This is inhumane," he protested. "She just gave birth." "I'm sorry, sir," the male officer replied. Cora looked desperately at Joshua. "There must be something you can do. She needs to breastfeed. She needs her mother. I've already filed an emergency petition, but for now, we have to comply with the court order." Samuel approached the bed, reaching for Kate. "I'll take care of her, Cora, I promise." With trembling hands and a breaking heart, Cora pressed one last kiss to her daughter's forehead, inhaling her sweet newborn scent. "Mama loves you," she whispered. "Don't forget my voice. I'll come back to you, I promise." As Samuel took Kate from her arms, Cora felt as though a piece of her soul was being torn away. The officers allowed her to change into regular clothes. Cora moved mechanically, her body going through the motions while her mind screamed in protest. As she was led from the hospital room, she caught one last glimpse of Kate in Samuel's arms, tiny and vulnerable. The processing at the county jail was a dehumanizing blur. Fingerprints, photographs, personal belongings cataloged and stored, hospital-issued breast pumps confiscated as a potential weapon. Cora's protests about her medical needs fell on deaf ears until a female guard finally took pity and arranged for a basic hand pump to be provided. Joshua visited that evening, his expression grim. "The new evidence is damning, Cora. They have the flight reservation made from your home computer using your credit card, and the additional transfers, 250, moved to the Cayman account just yesterday morning." "I was in the hospital," Cora repeated numbly. "Someone with access to your accounts and personal information," Joshua said carefully. "What happens now?" she asked instead. "The arraignment is tomorrow. You'll enter your not guilty plea, and we'll argue again for bail." But with the new evidence, Joshua's voice trailed off. "And Kate?" Cora's voice broke. "Samuel has temporary custody while you're incarcerated." The days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Cora's case proceeded through the legal system with the glacial pace typical of complex financial crimes. Each piece of evidence Joshua challenged was countered with 2 more damning documents. Samuel visited regularly at first, bringing photos of Kate but never the baby herself. "The prison environment isn't appropriate for an infant," he explained. During these visits, Samuel played the role of supportive husband perfectly, concerned, loving, determined to clear her name. But increasingly, Cora noticed discrepancies in his stories, small contradictions that nagged at her mind. "You said Kate was sleeping through the night last week," she pointed out during one visit. "But today you mentioned being up with her at 2 a.m. A flicker of something, annoyance, alarm, crossed Samuel's face before his expression smoothed into a rueful smile. "Did I say that? I must have been confused. The sleepless nights are starting to blur together." "Who's caring for her while you work?" Cora pressed. "You mentioned a nanny, but you've never told me her name." "Maria," Samuel replied smoothly. "She's wonderful with Kate." "I'd like to meet her," Cora said. "Maybe she could bring Kate for a visit." Samuel's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "I don't think that's a good idea, mi amor. As I said, this environment isn't suitable for a baby." As he left, Cora felt a growing certainty that something was very wrong. The pieces weren't fitting together. That night, alone in her cell, Cora finally allowed herself to confront the suspicion she'd been avoiding. What if Samuel was behind her framing? What if he had orchestrated this entire nightmare? The thought was so painful, so contrary to the life she thought they'd built together, that she physically recoiled from it. Samuel's controlling behavior during her pregnancy, insisting on accompanying her to every appointment, his sudden interest in the Foundation's financial systems, offering to modernize the security protocols, his friendship with Jennifer, which had seemed to deepen over the past year, with frequent lunch meetings and late-night calls about Foundation business, and most disturbing of all, Samuel's insistence that Cora take the prenatal vitamins he personally prepared for her each morning, vitamins that often left her feeling foggy and disoriented. Could it be? Had the man she loved, the father of her child, deliberately set her up? And if so, why? 3 months into her incarceration, the answer came in the most devastating way possible. Cora called home, as she did every evening, expecting Samuel to answer with an update about Kate. Instead, a woman's voice answered, familiar, but unexpected. Rivera residence. Jennifer, is that you? Where's Samuel? Where's Kate? A pause, then Jennifer's voice, cool and dismissive. Samuel is giving Kate her bath. Can I take a message? What are you doing at my house at 8 p.m.? Cora demanded. I live here now, Cora. Samuel and I are together. We have been for quite some time. The words hit Cora like physical blows. What are you saying? I'm saying that Samuel deserves someone he can trust, someone who isn't a criminal. Kate needs a mother figure who'll be present for her childhood, not calling from prison. You can't, Cora began. We're filing for adoption next week. Samuel's lawyer says it should be straightforward given your situation. 20 years is a long time, Cora. Kate will be in college by the time you're released, if you serve your full sentence. Let me speak to Samuel, Cora demanded. He's busy with the baby, Jennifer replied coolly. I'll tell him you called. The line went dead, leaving Cora clutching the phone, her world collapsing around her. The final pieces of the puzzle clicked into place with devastating clarity. Back in her cell, Cora curled into a ball on her narrow bed, her body racked with sobs that seemed to come from the very core of her being. The betrayal was so complete, so devastating, that it physically hurt to breathe. The next morning, moving like a woman twice her age, Cora made her way to the common area where inmates could receive visitors. To her surprise, Dr. Sarah Garcia was waiting, her practical clothes and minimal makeup a stark contrast to the other visitors with their careful attire and nervous expressions. Dr. Garcia, Cora greeted her, confused. I didn't expect to see you here. I've been trying to arrange a visit for weeks, Dr. Garcia replied, her eyes assessing Cora's condition with clinical precision. Are you eating? Cora gave a hollow laugh. My husband and best friend have been having an affair, framed me for embezzlement, and are planning to adopt my daughter so I'll never see her again. Appetite isn't high on my priority list. Dr. Garcia's expression didn't change. So you figured it out. You knew? I suspected, Dr. Garcia corrected, and I've been gathering evidence. Evidence? Cora repeated. Dr. Garcia leaned forward, lowering her voice. Cora, I need to tell you something important. I'm not just a gynecologist. Before medical school, I worked for the FBI as a forensic accountant. I don't understand. Why are you telling me this now? Because I believe you've been framed, Dr. Garcia said simply. You believe me? Can you help me? Dr. Garcia nodded, her expression serious. I can, and I will. But I need you to be strong a little longer, Cora. This won't be quick or easy. Samuel and Jennifer have constructed an elaborate frame. Kate, Cora whispered, her daughter's name a prayer and a plea. They're going to adopt her. I'll lose her forever. That won't happen, Dr. Garcia promised, her voice carrying absolute conviction. I won't let it happen. Trust me, Cora. I'm going to get you out of here. Dr. Sarah Garcia sat across from Joshua Kim in his office, a thick folder on the desk between them. Let me get this straight, Joshua said, leaning back in his chair. You're claiming that Samuel Rivera and Jennifer Torres deliberately framed Cora for embezzlement as part of a long-term plan to steal her money, take her child, and run off together to Spain? That's exactly what I'm claiming, Dr. Garcia confirmed. Joshua's expression remained doubtful. Dr. Garcia, with all due respect, your medical expertise doesn't qualify you to. Before I went to medical school, I spent 8 years with the FBI as a forensic accountant. Joshua blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. But even if your background is legitimate, what you're suggesting is the truth, Dr. Garcia said firmly. First, let's address the timeline discrepancies. Cora was allegedly transferring funds from the foundation during times when she was physically present at my medical office. I have appointment records, ultrasound timestamps, and security footage from the medical building proving she was with me during at least 4 of the transfers. The prosecution claims the security footage from the foundation office shows her making those transfers. Because the footage was altered, Dr. Garcia explained. Look at these side-by-side comparisons. She laid out several sets of images. The lighting is consistent throughout the alleged footage of Cora entering the building, but if you look closely at the time-stamped corner, you can see subtle differences in the digital artifacts. The timestamps were doctored. This would require expert analysis to verify in court. I've already contacted a forensic video specialist, but that's just the beginning. The digital signatures on the transfer authorizations, they appear to be Cora's because they were copied from legitimate foundation documents. Jennifer, as co-founder, had access to all of Cora's signed documents. What about the bank accounts? The prosecution has statements showing deposits that align with the embezzled funds, opened with forged documentation, Dr. Garcia confirmed. I've traced the IP addresses used to create those accounts online. You've been busy, Joshua observed. But why? Why take such a personal interest in Cora's case? Because I've seen this before. My sister was framed by her husband for insurance fraud. She died in prison before we could prove her innocence. I won't let that happen to Cora. Even if everything you're saying is true, we're still missing a crucial element: motive. Why would Samuel frame his own wife, the mother of his child? Money and freedom, Dr. Garcia replied simply. The Rivera Children's Foundation has assets of over $15 million. As Cora's husband, Samuel would have legal control of her personal assets while she's incarcerated and significant influence over the foundation's direction. Additionally, he and Jennifer have been having an affair for approximately 2 years. Can you prove the affair? Dr. Garcia nodded. Hotel receipts, credit card statements showing matching purchases in locations where they claim to be at separate events, and witnesses who saw them together. She pulled out another document, her expression hardening. This is the most disturbing element. During Cora's pregnancy, she frequently complained of unusual fatigue, foggy thinking, and memory lapses beyond normal pregnancy symptoms. I ordered blood tests. Consistent low levels of benzodiazepines in her system, not enough to cause obvious impairment, but sufficient to induce subtle cognitive effects. Confusion, forgetfulness, suggestibility. Are you saying Samuel was drugging his pregnant wife? Exactly that, Dr. Garcia confirmed grimly. And I believe it was to make her seem confused and unreliable, to plant the seeds of doubt about her mental stability. Several Foundation employees have mentioned in statements that Cora seemed off or distracted in the months before her arrest. My God, Joshua murmured. If this is true, there's more, Dr. Garcia continued. The pregnancy itself was part of the plan. Cora believed she was on birth control. She had been taking oral contraceptives for years due to a medical condition. 3 months before she became pregnant, the levels of active hormones in her pills dropped dramatically. How do you know this? Because I became suspicious and tested the remaining pills in her prescription. They had been replaced with lookalikes containing primarily inactive ingredients. Joshua ran a hand through his hair, visibly disturbed. You're suggesting Samuel deliberately got his wife pregnant as part of a scheme to frame her for embezzlement. That's diabolical. Precisely, Dr. Garcia agreed. A pregnant woman is more vulnerable, emotionally, physically, and in the public eye. When she was arrested at her own baby shower, the shock and spectacle made headlines. More importantly, pregnancy and new motherhood are times of significant hormonal fluctuation and sleep deprivation. Combined with the low-dose sedatives he was administering, it created the perfect storm of confusion and emotional instability, making it easier to gaslight her and harder for her to mount a coherent defense. We need to take this to the district attorney immediately, if even half of what you're showing me can be verified. Not yet, Dr. Garcia interrupted. We need more. Right now, it's still circumstantial. Samuel could claim the medication was a mix-up, that the affair doesn't prove conspiracy. We need direct evidence of their collusion in the framing. How do you propose we get that? I have a plan, but it will require Cora's cooperation, and it involves risk. I can't put my client at further risk. She's already at maximum risk. What I'm proposing could save her. Let's hear the plan. Back at the county jail, Cora listened as Dr. Garcia and Joshua outlined the strategy. Her expressions cycled through disbelief, anger, and finally, grim determination. You're saying Samuel deliberately got me pregnant? Cora's voice was hollow with shock. That he planned this nightmare from the beginning. The evidence suggests so, Dr. Garcia confirmed gently. The timing aligns perfectly with the Foundation's growing success and liquidity. As your husband, he would have significant control over your personal assets while you're incarcerated. And Jennifer, Cora whispered, she was never my friend. Cora shook her head. I thought I knew them both. I trusted them completely. Her expression hardened. What do you need me to do? Dr. Garcia leaned forward. We need to provoke them into revealing their plan. Right now, they believe they've won. How do I provoke them from here? Cora asked. Phone calls, Joshua explained. All prison calls are recorded. If we can get Samuel or Jennifer to say something incriminating during a call with you, we'll have direct evidence. They're too careful for that, Cora objected. They might, Dr. Garcia countered, if they believe you have something they want, something valuable enough to make them careless. The offshore accounts, the ones they created in my name. Dr. Garcia nodded. Exactly. We'll spread a story that you've revealed the existence of additional accounts that only you can access. Accounts with significant funds that weren't included in the prosecution's evidence. Samuel's greed will do the rest, Joshua added. It's risky, Dr. Garcia acknowledged. Cora considered the plan, weighing the risks against the alternative. Years in prison, separated from her daughter, her reputation destroyed. Let's do it, she said finally. But there's something else we need to discuss. Her voice hardened with resolve. Kate, I need to know she's safe while we're implementing this plan. I've been monitoring the situation, Dr. Garcia assured her. Samuel has hired a full-time nanny, Maria Delgado. She appears to be providing adequate care, and there's no evidence Kate is being neglected or mistreated. But she's with them, Cora said, anguish evident in her voice. Which is why we need to move quickly, Joshua said. The adoption filing is scheduled for next month. Cora took a deep breath, steeling herself. Then tell me exactly what to say. The plan was set in motion the following day. Joshua arranged for a meeting with the prosecutor, ostensibly to discuss a plea deal. During this meeting, he casually mentioned that his client had reconsidered her position and was willing to provide information about additional funds not yet discovered by the investigation. As anticipated, word quickly reached Samuel through his connections in the district attorney's office. That evening, when Cora called home, Samuel answered on the first ring. Cora, he greeted her, his voice carefully modulated to convey concern. How are you, mi amor? Don't call me that, Cora replied coldly, following the script. Not after what you and Jennifer have done. I don't know what you're talking about. If this is about Jennifer staying at the house, she's helping with Kate. You should be grateful. I know about the affair, Samuel, Cora interrupted. You're delusional, Samuel scoffed. The stress of prison is clearly affecting your mind. Maybe, Cora agreed, forcing her voice to remain steady. But it's also giving me time to think, to remember things I'd forgotten about our financial arrangements. What arrangements? He finally asked. The accounts in Singapore, Cora improvised. The ones not connected to the foundation or the Cayman Islands accounts you created in my name. I don't know what you're talking about. No? Cora allowed a bitter laugh. That's interesting, because those accounts contain nearly $3 million. Money that wasn't part of the prosecution's case because they don't know about them. Cora, you're confused. There are no Singapore accounts. Why don't I come visit tomorrow? We can talk about this in person. No, Cora said firmly. I'm done talking to you in person, done watching you pretend to be the supportive husband while you and Jennifer plot behind my back. If you want to discuss the Singapore accounts, put Jennifer on the phone. I know she's there. Samuel's breathing changed, becoming slightly faster. Jennifer isn't here. Liar, Cora said simply. Put her on, or I'll call my lawyer tonight and tell him where to find evidence of your affair going back 2 years. Evidence that will raise serious questions about who really orchestrated the embezzlement. Jennifer's voice came on the line. What do you want, Cora? The truth, Cora replied. And my daughter. Jennifer laughed. You're in no position to demand anything. You're going to prison for 20 years. Kate will be our daughter long before you're released. Perhaps, Cora acknowledged. But I'll still control those Singapore accounts. $3 million that you and Samuel won't ever see unless you give me what I want. And what is that exactly? Jennifer asked. Regular visitation with Kate, not through prison glass but actual physical contact. Holding her, feeding her, being her mother. Impossible. The court would never allow it. Courts make exceptions for wealthy defendants all the time, Cora countered. Especially with the right legal representation which I can afford with part of those funds. The rest would go to you and Samuel in exchange for your cooperation. How do we know these accounts really exist? This could be some desperate ploy. Check Samuel's email, Cora instructed. I just sent account numbers, partial ones. You can confirm with your banking contacts. This was a calculated risk. Dr. Garcia had indeed set up dummy accounts with the help of FBI contacts. Why would you do this? Jennifer asked. Why offer us money after what you believe we've done? Because Kate is all that matters to me, Cora answered. I'd give up everything else. The money, my freedom, my reputation, if it meant not losing her completely. We'll need to discuss this, Jennifer said after another pause, and verify the accounts. Of course, Cora agreed, but don't take too long. My lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. Once I accept, these accounts become part of the official record, and they'll be frozen pending investigation. We'll be in touch, Jennifer said curtly. 2 days later, Samuel visited the prison. I've verified the existence of the accounts, he said, though not their contents. As I said, you can't access the funds without my authorization, Cora replied, and I won't provide that without guarantees about Kate. Be reasonable, Cora. The courts won't allow a convicted embezzler regular physical contact with an infant. It's not happening. Then neither is your access to those funds, Cora countered. I'd rather donate the entire amount to charity than let you and Jennifer enjoy a single dollar of it. After everything I've done for you, for me? Cora repeated. You framed me for embezzlement, drugged me during my pregnancy, and are planning to steal my daughter. What exactly have you done for me, Samuel? You're confused, mi amor. The stress of prison, the separation from Kate, it's affecting your mind. No one has framed you. The evidence of your embezzlement is clear. Evidence you and Jennifer manufactured, Cora said flatly. I know about the affair, about your plans to move to Spain once the adoption is finalized. Something shifted in Samuel's eyes, a flicker of alarm quickly suppressed. These are delusions, Cora. Paranoid fantasies. No, Cora said quietly. They're the truth. The same truth I'll tell at my trial, with whatever evidence my lawyer can gather. It might not be enough to exonerate me, but it will certainly raise questions about your involvement. Questions that might delay the adoption, might trigger investigations into your finances. What do you want, Cora? Really? I told you. Regular visitation with Kate. Real contact, not through glass. And in exchange? Access to the Singapore accounts. $3 million, Samuel. Tax-free, untraceable. You'd need to provide the full account details, authorization codes, everything. After the first visit with Kate, Cora countered, I hold her, feed her, spend real time with her. Then you get access to the first account, with $1 million. Samuel considered this, naked greed warring with suspicion in his eyes. How do I know you won't renege once you've seen Kate? You don't, Cora admitted. Just as I don't know, you won't take the money and deny further visits. Samuel leaned back, his decision apparently made. I'll see what can be arranged, but I make no promises. 1 week, Cora said firmly. If I haven't held my daughter within 1 week, the deal is off. As Samuel left, Cora felt a mixture of hope and dread. The bait had been taken, but the next steps were critical. Dr. Garcia visited the next day, ostensibly for a medical follow-up. In the relative privacy of the prison infirmary, Cora recounted the conversation with Samuel. He's interested, she concluded. Greedy enough to consider it, at least. Dr. Garcia nodded thoughtfully. But be cautious enough to verify the accounts first. Our FBI contacts confirm they've received inquiries through channels Samuel would likely use. Will the dummy accounts hold up to scrutiny? Cora asked anxiously. Long enough, Dr. Garcia assured her. They're well-constructed facades, but we need to move quickly. The real question is whether he'll bring Kate for a visit. He has to, Cora said, desperation creeping into her voice despite her efforts to remain calm. It's been almost 4 months. She won't even recognize me. Dr. Garcia's expression softened with rare emotion. Babies remember their mothers, Cora. Not consciously, perhaps, but in ways that matter. The sound of your voice, your scent, the way you hold her. These things are imprinted on her. I hope you're right, because if this plan fails, I might not see her again until she's grown. The plan won't fail, Dr. Garcia said with quiet conviction. We've anticipated their moves, laid the groundwork carefully, and we have one advantage they don't know about. What's that? Me, Dr. Garcia replied simply. They still think I'm just your doctor. The week passed in agonizing slowness. Cora alternated between hope that she might soon hold Kate again and fear that Samuel had seen through their deception. Joshua visited twice, reporting that the prosecution seemed strangely hesitant to proceed with the case, suggesting they might be reconsidering some elements of the evidence. Dr. Garcia's questions about the timeline discrepancies have made an impression, he explained. Is that enough? Cora asked, desperate for reassurance. Not yet, Joshua admitted, but it's a start. The important thing now is to get Samuel or Jennifer to incriminate themselves directly. On the 7th day, just as Cora was beginning to lose hope, a guard informed her she had visitors, special visitors, approved by court order for a supervised contact visit. Heart-pounding, Cora was led to a small room typically used for attorney conferences. And there, in Samuel's arms, was Kate, bigger than in the photos, her dark hair longer, her cheeks chubbier, but unmistakably her daughter. Kate, Cora whispered, tears immediately flowing down her cheeks. Samuel's expression was a carefully constructed blend of compassion and caution. The judge granted a 1-hour supervised visit. I had to pull a lot of strings and call in favors. Can I hold her? Be careful. She's not used to strangers. I'm not a stranger, Cora protested softly. Kate squirmed at first, uncertain about this unfamiliar person. But as Cora began to hum softly, the same lullaby she had sung to her belly throughout pregnancy, the baby stilled, her dark eyes fixed on Cora's face with growing interest. Hello, my love, Cora murmured. You have your visit. Now, about the account details. Not yet, Cora said, not taking her eyes off Kate. The agreement was I would hold her, feed her, and spend real time with her. The hour has just begun. Samuel's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He sat silently while Cora reacquainted herself with her daughter, memorizing the weight of her in her arms, the the sweet baby smell of her hair, the perfect tiny fingernails on her perfect tiny hands. Kate, for her part, seemed increasingly comfortable in Cora's embrace. When Cora began singing softly, the baby's eyes widened in what almost seemed like recognition. "She knows my voice," Cora said wonderingly. "She remembers." Babies respond to singing, Samuel dismissed. But Cora knew better. In those dark prison nights, she had clung to the hope that her daughter would somehow remember her, that the bond formed during pregnancy wouldn't be so easily broken. "I have formula in the diaper bag," Samuel said, checking his watch. "If you want to feed her." Cora nodded gratefully, accepting the prepared bottle. "This isn't enough, Samuel. 1 hour every few months isn't enough." "It's more than most inmates get," he countered. "We both know the circumstances are of your making," Cora said quietly. "You and Jennifer created this situation. You can find a way to give me more time with Kate." Samuel leaned forward. "You're in no position to make demands. I've fulfilled my part of the bargain. Now it's your turn." "Half of it," Cora corrected. "1 visit. That gets you access to 1 million. The rest comes with continued visits." Samuel's expression darkened. "The account details, Cora. Now." Cora shifted Kate to her shoulder, patting her back gently to burp her. "There's a piece of paper in my pocket with the authorization codes for the first account." Samuel reached into his jacket and withdrew a phone. "I want to verify the funds can be accessed before I leave this room." "Fine," Cora agreed, having anticipated this. Dr. Garcia had ensured the first dummy account would withstand immediate verification, but not until the end of my hour with Kate. The remainder of the visit passed too quickly. Cora memorized every detail of her daughter. The dimple in her left cheek when she smiled, the way she gripped with surprising strength, the soft gurgling sounds she made when content. All too soon, the guard announced their time was up. With physical pain, Cora kissed Kate's forehead one last time before reluctantly handing her back to Samuel. "The authorization codes," Samuel reminded her. Cora removed a folded paper from her pocket and handed it over. "Account number, password, and verification codes. Exactly as promised." Samuel examined the paper, then input the information into his phone. After a moment, his expression shifted subtly. Confirmation that the account existed and contained the promised funds. 1 million as agreed, Cora said. "Weekly visits are impossible," he dismissed immediately. "The court would never allow it." "Then monthly," Cora countered, "with at least 2 hours each time." Samuel studied her, calculation evident in his eyes. "I'll see what can be arranged. No promises." "Samuel, why are you doing this? We built a life together. I loved you. I thought you loved me. Life is about seizing opportunities, Cora. You should understand that better than anyone." "At any cost?" Cora pressed. "Even destroying innocent lives? You did that yourself when you stole from the Foundation." "We both know I didn't," Cora said quietly. "The question is, will Kate ever know the truth about what her father did to her mother?" Samuel's face flushed with sudden anger. "Careful, Cora. You're still looking at 20 years. Push me, and you'll never see Kate again. Singapore accounts or not." With that threat hanging in the air, he left with Kate, the heavy door closing behind them with devastating finality. Cora sat alone in the visiting room, the ghost sensation of Kate's weight still in her arms, the baby scent still in her nostrils. But something else had happened too, something Samuel hadn't noticed in his greedy focus on the Singapore accounts. Throughout the hour with Kate, a small recording device hidden in the collar of Cora's prison uniform had captured every word of their conversation. It wasn't a full confession, but it was a start, and combined with the evidence Dr. Garcia had been gathering, it might just be enough to begin unraveling the elaborate frame they had constructed around her. The next morning, Joshua visited. "Samuel attempted to transfer funds from the dummy account last night," he reported. "FBI cybercrime tracked the transfer attempt to a computer in your home office. They also intercepted phone calls between Samuel and contacts in Spain discussing property purchases and residency arrangements." "Is that enough?" Cora asked urgently. "Not by itself," Joshua admitted, "but combined with the recording from your visit and Dr. Garcia's evidence about the timeline discrepancies and the drugged prenatal vitamins, it's building a compelling alternative narrative. Will the district attorney listen?" "They're already listening," Joshua confirmed. "Dr. Garcia's FBI connections helped get us a meeting." "And Kate? What happens to her if Samuel is investigated?" "One step at a time," Joshua cautioned. "But if we can cast sufficient doubt on Samuel's credibility, we can petition for a custody review." 3 days after the visit, Dr. Garcia arrived with news that sent that fear spiraling into panic. "Samuel has booked flights to Barcelona for himself, Jennifer, and Kate. Departure is scheduled for next week." "No," Cora's voice rose in desperation. "They can't take her out of the country." "We're working on it," Dr. Garcia assured her. "The FBI is monitoring the situation. but we need more direct evidence of their conspiracy to get an arrest warrant before they leave." "How?" Cora demanded. "We've done everything we can. What more do they need?" "A confession, or the next best thing, evidence of them discussing the details of how they framed you. And how do we get that when they're being so careful? By making them believe they've won," Dr. Garcia explained. "Right now, they're still cautious because they know you're fighting the charges. But if they believed you'd given up, accept a plea deal, they might let their guard down, celebrate their victory." "Exactly," Dr. Garcia confirmed. "And I have a plan to ensure we'll be there to hear it." The plan was audacious, requiring coordination between Cora, Joshua, Dr. Garcia, and her FBI contacts. Joshua would inform the district attorney's office that Cora was considering a plea deal, news that would quickly reach Samuel through his connections. Meanwhile, Dr. Garcia would approach Jennifer under the guise of discussing Kate's medical care. The trap was set in motion the very next day. Joshua visited the district attorney, making a show of discussing plea terms. Dr. Garcia called Jennifer, expressing concern about Kate's developmental milestones and requesting a home visit. 2 days later, Dr. Garcia sat in the elegant living room of the Rivera mansion, ostensibly reviewing Kate's growth charts with Jennifer. "Her weight gain is excellent," Dr. Garcia noted professionally, "but I'm a bit concerned about some delayed responses in the standard developmental assessments." Jennifer frowned. "Delayed? In what way?" "Nothing severe," Dr. Garcia assured her, "but there are specific milestones we look for at 4 months, and Kate is showing slight delays in some cognitive responses. I'd like to discuss her prenatal history in more detail." Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. "Wouldn't Cora be the better person to ask about that? I mean, she was the one pregnant." "Ideally, yes," Dr. Garcia agreed. "But given the circumstances and your role as Kate's current caregiver, I thought it best to start with you." The front door opened before Jennifer could respond, and Samuel entered, his expression darkening when he saw Dr. Garcia. "Doctor, I wasn't aware we had an appointment today. I had some concerns about Kate's developmental progress that I wanted to discuss." Samuel's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Is something wrong with my daughter?" "Minor developmental delays," Dr. Garcia repeated. "Possibly nothing to worry about. I was just asking Jennifer about Kate's prenatal history." "I see. Well, I can tell you that Cora had excellent prenatal care. I made sure of it personally." "Yes, I recall you were very involved," Dr. Garcia commented neutrally. "I wanted to ensure the best for my child." "Of course," Dr. Garcia agreed. "By the way, I heard Cora is considering a plea deal. That must be a relief, having the legal proceedings resolved." "Absolutely," Jennifer chimed in with poorly concealed satisfaction. "The evidence was overwhelming. A trial would have just prolonged the inevitable." Dr. Garcia nodded thoughtfully. "The evidence was certainly compelling. Those security videos showing her accessing the Foundation's accounts after hours, the digital signatures on the transfers, it was quite comprehensive." "Exactly," Jennifer agreed. "I imagine constructing such a thorough frame must have taken considerable planning," Dr. Garcia commented casually. "Frame?" Samuel repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. Dr. Garcia looked up, her expression innocently puzzled. "Oh, I'm sorry, was that not common knowledge? I assumed since Cora was accepting a plea deal, you would have dropped the pretense." "There is no pretense," Jennifer said sharply. Samuel moved closer, his posture subtly threatening. "I think it's time for you to leave, Dr. Garcia. Your concerns about Kate can be addressed by another physician." "Certainly," Dr. Garcia agreed, gathering her things unhurriedly. "Though I should mention that I've shared my observations about Cora's case with several colleagues, including those at the FBI. The revelation landed like a physical blow." Samuel actually took a step back, while Jennifer sank onto the sofa, her legs seemingly unable to support her. "You're bluffing," Samuel said. "If you had evidence of what you're suggesting, Cora wouldn't be considering a plea deal. Unless that too is a strategy," Dr. Garcia suggested calmly. "Get out," Samuel ordered. Dr. Garcia stood, tucking her tablet into her bag. "Of course. But before I go, perhaps you should know that the Singapore accounts Cora told you about, they're not real. They're FBI honeypots, designed to trace anyone attempting to access them." "You're lying," Jennifer whispered. "Am I?" Dr. Garcia moved toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and those flights to Barcelona next week? I wouldn't bother packing. Neither of you will be leaving the country." With that parting shot, she left, calmly walking to her car while behind her, panic erupted in the house she'd just exited. In her car, Dr. Garcia activated her phone. "It's done," she reported to the FBI contact on the other end. "They'll run or they'll try to destroy evidence. Either way, they'll make mistakes." "Teams are in position," the agent confirmed. "The moment they make a move, we'll know." Dr. Garcia ended the call and sat for a moment, allowing herself a brief respite from the professional detachment she'd maintained throughout this ordeal. "Hold on, Cora," she murmured, starting her car. "We're almost there." The trap was sprung that very night. As Dr. Garcia had predicted, panic drove Samuel and Jennifer to make critical errors. FBI surveillance documented their frantic activities, Samuel attempting to access and empty legitimate offshore accounts, Jennifer collecting incriminating documents from a hidden safe, both of them making hurried calls to contacts about expedited travel arrangements. Most damning of all, in their panic to coordinate their stories, they spoke openly in their home about details of the frame-up, conversations captured by surveillance devices placed during Dr. Garcia's visit. "They can't prove we altered the security footage," Jennifer insisted. "What about digital signatures?" Samuel demanded. "They'll hold up," Jennifer assured him. "I copied them from legitimate Foundation documents, pixel by pixel. And the sedatives in her vitamins? What if they test her hair or nail samples for long-term exposure? We'll deny everything. Say she was taking anxiety medication secretly during the pregnancy. It's her word against ours." The arrest was not as public as Cora's had been. No dramatic interruption of a social event, no handcuffs applied before shocked onlookers. Instead, it was executed with clinical precision. Samuel and Jennifer were taken into custody separately, he at his office, she at a salon where she was having her hair colored for their planned escape to Spain. Kate was temporarily placed with Child Protective Services, with Dr. Garcia registered as her medical advocate. In her prison cell, Cora received the news from Joshua, who could barely contain his satisfaction as he outlined the charges against Samuel and Jennifer: conspiracy, fraud, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, and more. "What happens now?" Cora asked. "When can I see Kate? When can I go home?" "The district attorney is reviewing all the evidence," Joshua explained. "Given what's emerged about Samuel and Jennifer's conspiracy, I expect the charges against you to be dropped within days. As for Kate, we've already filed for emergency custody restoration." With Samuel and Jennifer both in custody and facing serious charges, Cora closed her eyes, overwhelmed by emotions too complex to name. After months of nightmare, the prospect of freedom, of holding Kate again without guards watching or time limits imposing. "Thank you," she whispered. "I always had doubts," Joshua admitted. "The timeline never quite made sense, but the real thanks goes to Dr. Garcia." Cora nodded, tears flowing freely now. "I owe her everything. My freedom, my daughter, my life." "She said something similar about you, actually," Joshua noted. "That helping you gave her back a piece of herself she'd lost when her sister died in prison. She finally walked out of prison, a free woman, exonerated of all charges, her reputation on the path to restoration. Dr. Garcia was waiting, and beside her, in the arms of a social worker, was Kate. The reunion was everything Cora had dreamed of during those dark prison nights. Kate, now almost 5 months old, stared at her mother with wide, solemn eyes for a long moment, and then, miraculously, broke into a gummy smile of recognition. "She knows me," Cora sobbed as she gathered her daughter into her arms. "She remembers." "Of course she does," Dr. Garcia said softly. "She's your daughter." Freedom was both sweeter and more complicated than Cora had imagined during her months of incarceration. Sweet because Kate was in her arms again, because she could sleep in her own bed, because the nightmare of prison was behind her. Complicated because the world she returned to was fundamentally altered, her marriage exposed as a calculated fraud, her best friend revealed as a co-conspirator in her destruction, her charity's finances in disarray following the investigation. In the weeks following her release, Cora focused on rebuilding her bond with Kate. They settled into a new apartment, a fresh start away from the mansion she had shared with Samuel. Dr. Garcia remained a steady presence, visiting regularly to check on Kate's development. The development delays I mentioned to Jennifer were fabricated. Dr. Garcia admitted during one such visit, watching Kate gleefully batting at a mobile above her playmat, just a pretext to get into the house. Kate is actually advanced for her age in several areas. "Really?" Cora couldn't hide her pride. "Even after everything she's been through? Babies are remarkably resilient," Dr. Garcia assured her. These quiet moments of normalcy were interspersed with the ongoing legal proceedings against Samuel and Jennifer. Cora was required to give depositions, to review evidence, to prepare for her eventual testimony at their trial. Joshua guided her through the legal maze with patience and determination. The case against them is overwhelming. The FBI has traced financial records showing they've been planning this for over 2 years. They found evidence of Samuel tampering with your birth control, documentation of the sedatives he was adding to your vitamins, hotel receipts from their affair dating back to before your pregnancy. "I still can't believe I didn't see it," Cora confessed. "Because you trusted them," Dr. Garcia said simply, having joined them for the post-deposition discussion. And because Samuel was deliberately impairing your cognitive function with low-dose sedatives, Cora nodded, trying to accept this perspective. What about the foundation? The forensic accountants have completed their review, Joshua reported. The good news is that the foundation's work was legitimate and effective. The $2.3 million Samuel and Jennifer claimed you embezzled was never actually missing. They created a paper trail showing fake transfers, so the children we were helping weren't affected. Not financially, no. There was some disruption of services during the investigation, but now that you've been exonerated, operations are resuming. The board has unanimously voted to reinstate you as executive director, if you want the position. Cora considered this, her expression thoughtful. I don't know. Part of me wants to reclaim that work, to continue helping those children. But another part needs time to heal, Dr. Garcia finished for her. As the weeks passed and the case against Samuel and Jennifer progressed, media interest in Cora's story intensified. The narrative was irresistible, a pregnant philanthropist framed by her husband and best friend, giving birth in prison, separated from her newborn, and ultimately exonerated through the efforts of a former FBI agent turned doctor. Journalists requested interviews, producers pitched documentary ideas, publishers offered book deals. Cora declined them all, focusing instead on her daughter and her recovery. They're calling it the baby shower betrayal, Joshua informed her with a wry smile, showing her a newspaper headline. I don't want to be a tabloid sensation, Cora said firmly. But as Samuel and Jennifer's trial approached, Cora realized that complete privacy was impossible. Her story had become a cautionary tale, a modern parable about betrayal and justice. This realization led to a late-night conversation with Dr. Garcia as they sat on Cora's balcony watching the city lights while Kate slept peacefully inside. I've been thinking about what you said, Cora began, about your sister, and how helping me was a way of honoring her memory. Dr. Garcia nodded, her normally reserved expression softening. Elena, she was framed by her husband for insurance fraud. By the time I gathered enough evidence to prove her innocence, she had died in prison. I'm so sorry, Cora said quietly. I can't imagine carrying that kind of loss. It changed me, Dr. Garcia acknowledged. Made me leave the FBI, go to medical school. I thought I could help more people that way, prevent suffering rather than just punish those who caused it. And yet you ended up using your FBI skills to help me. Some patterns repeat until we address them directly, Dr. Garcia said thoughtfully. I want to do something similar, she finally said. Use what happened to me to help others. Not just continue the foundation's work, but create something new. Dr. Garcia studied her with interest. What are you envisioning? A foundation that provides legal representation, emotional support, and practical assistance to parents fighting to reunite with their children. That's ambitious, Dr. Garcia observed, and needed. I'd want you to be part of it, Cora continued, her voice gaining confidence as the idea took shape. Your expertise in both investigation and medicine would be invaluable, and I was thinking we could name it after Kate, the Kate Rivera Foundation. Dr. Garcia was quiet for a long moment. I'd be honored, she finally said, both to participate and to see Kate's name used for such a purpose. That conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter in Cora's life. While preparing for Samuel and Jennifer's trial, she began laying the groundwork for the Kate Rivera Foundation, channeling her trauma into purpose, her pain into action. Cora testified for 3 grueling days, recounting the betrayal in meticulous detail, from the altered birth control to the drugged vitamins, from the baby shower arrest to the prison birth, from Samuel's controlling behavior to Jennifer's cruel taunts during her incarceration. Throughout her testimony, she maintained a quiet dignity that impressed even the most cynical observers. The most powerful moment came when the prosecutor asked her to read aloud a letter she had written to Kate during her imprisonment, a letter she had never expected her daughter to see. Cora unfolded the worn paper, her hands steady. My darling Kate, she began, her voice clear in the hushed courtroom. If you ever doubt whether you were wanted, know that I fought for you from behind bars. I loved you before I knew you, and I'll love you beyond my last breath. The world may tell you stories about me, about why I wasn't there for your first smile, your first steps. But know this truth. Every moment away from you has been a physical pain, every missed milestone a wound to my heart. I don't know if I'll be there to see you grow, but I promise that wherever I am loving you, thinking of you, holding you in my heart. You are my miracle, my hope, my future. And whatever happens, no one can take that bond from us. There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom as Cora refolded the letter. Samuel and Jennifer's defense strategy, attempting to portray Cora as mentally unstable and themselves as victims of her delusions, crumbled in the face of the overwhelming evidence and Cora's compelling testimony. The sentencing was equally decisive. Samuel received 25 years for fraud, conspiracy, and what the judge called the cruel and calculated destruction of a family for financial gain. Jennifer received 20 years and was ordered to pay full restitution to the foundation. As they were led from the courtroom in handcuffs, Cora felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory or vindication. What she felt instead was a profound weariness, coupled with the relief that this chapter was finally closing. The Kate Rivera Foundation launched 6 months after the trial concluded, with Cora as founder and CEO, Dr. Garcia joining the board of directors, and an impressive roster of legal, medical, and psychological professionals volunteering their services. Their first case, a single father framed for child endangerment by his ex-wife and her lawyer boyfriend, separated from his 6-year-old son for nearly a year. The work was challenging but deeply rewarding. Each family reunited, each false accusation disproven, each manipulated evidence exposed felt like a personal victory, not just for the families involved, but for Cora and Kate as well. Kate grew from an infant to a toddler under the watchful, loving eyes of her mother and the extended family they had created. Dr. Garcia became Aunt Sarah, a constant presence in their lives, teaching Kate about science and justice in equal measure. Joshua remained their attorney and friend, his initial professional detachment long since replaced by genuine affection for both mother and daughter. On Kate's second birthday, they gathered for a small celebration in the park near Cora's apartment, a simple picnic with homemade cake, balloons, and the people who had become their chosen family. As Kate gleefully smeared frosting on her face, Dr. Garcia approached Cora with an unusual hesitation in her normally confident demeanor. "I have something to tell you," she said, sitting beside Cora on the picnic blanket. "Something important." Cora looked up, immediately concerned by her friend's serious tone. "What is it? Is everything okay?" Dr. Garcia took a deep breath, then smiled. "More than okay. I'm pregnant." "What?" Cora's eyes widened in delighted shock. "Sarah, that's amazing. I didn't even know you were trying to have a baby." "I wasn't, not actively," Dr. Garcia admitted. "At 43, I thought that chapter of my life had closed, but apparently fate had other plans." "Fate," Cora repeated softly, watching Kate chase a butterfly a few feet away. "Yes, I believe it did. You're exactly the kind of mother I hope to be," Dr. Garcia said simply. "Strong, loving, determined to protect your child at all costs." Cora was momentarily speechless, touched beyond words by this affirmation from the woman who had saved her life and her family. As the birthday celebration continued around them, Cora found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed her had ultimately led to the creation of something beautiful. 2 months later, Cora stood behind a podium at a fundraising gala for the Kate Rivera Foundation, preparing to address the assembled donors and supporters. Kate was at home with a babysitter, though her presence was felt throughout the elegantly decorated ballroom in the photographs highlighting the foundation's work and in the very name of the organization that had grown from a late-night conversation into a thriving nonprofit. 2 years ago, Cora began, her voice steady and clear. "I was arrested at my baby shower, accused of stealing from the children's charity I had founded. I gave birth to my daughter while incarcerated, held her through prison bars, and faced the prospect of missing her entire childhood due to a sentence for crimes I didn't commit. Today, I stand before you not as a victim seeking sympathy, but as the founder of an organization dedicated to preventing others from experiencing similar injustices." The Kate Rivera Foundation has, in its first 18 months, helped reunite 27 families separated by false accusations, manipulated evidence, or abuse of the legal system. Applause interrupted her briefly, and Cora used the moment to gather herself. "But we have hundreds more cases waiting for our attention, hundreds more children growing up separated from loving parents due to deliberate manipulation of our justice system. Your support tonight will help us expand our legal team, enhance our investigative capabilities, and provide crucial support services to families in crisis." She paused, making eye contact with various attendees, wealthy donors, legal professionals, fellow survivors of system abuse. "When I was in prison, separated from my newborn daughter, I made a promise to her and to myself. I promised that if I ever found my way back to her, I would dedicate my life to ensuring no other parent or child endured that pain unnecessarily." Cora stepped away from the podium to sustained applause. "Perfect speech," Dr. Garcia commended her. "Dignified, passionate, and concise. The donation pledges are already flooding in." "Good," Cora said with genuine satisfaction. "We need the resources. That class action lawsuit against the private prison corporation is going to be expensive, but worth it," Dr. Garcia added. They moved together through the gala, discussing cases, accepting congratulations on the foundation's work, and in Dr. Garcia's case, fielding the inevitable questions about her pregnancy. Back at the foundation office, Cora immersed herself in work, reviewing the Wilson case with the legal team, participating in a strategy session for an upcoming legislative initiative, and finalizing plans for a support group for parents fighting to reunite with their children. It was late afternoon when she finally checked her watch and realized it was time to pick up Kate from preschool. The preschool was just a few blocks from the foundation offices, a cheerful building with a fenced playground where Kate and her classmates spent their afternoons in supervised play. She spotted Kate immediately, her dark hair bouncing as she ran, her face alight with the uncomplicated joy of childhood. For a moment, Cora simply watched, savoring the sight of her daughter healthy, happy, and free. Then Kate looked up and saw her mother waiting. "Mama," she called, abandoning her game to race toward the fence, arms outstretched. "Mama, I drawed a picture for you." Drew a picture, Cora corrected gently as she signed Kate out and accepted her daughter's enthusiastic hug. "And I can't wait to see it." Kate pulled the slightly crumpled artwork from her backpack, proudly displaying a colorful scribble that vaguely resembled two figures holding hands. "It's us, in the garden." "It's beautiful," Cora said sincerely. "Should we hang it on the refrigerator when we get home?" Kate nodded. "Mama, Miss Davis says I'm a helper. I showed the new boy where the blocks go." "That was very kind of you," Cora praised, her heart swelling with pride at this small evidence of her daughter's developing character. "Like the people you help at work?" Kate asked, her understanding of her mother's job simplified but essentially accurate. "Exactly like that," Cora agreed. "When people are scared and confused, it helps to have someone show them where things go, to help them find their way." Kate nodded. "Can we have spaghetti for dinner? With the red sauce?" "I think that can be arranged," Cora said. As they walked home together, discussing spaghetti and preschool and the new baby growing in Aunt Sarah's tummy, Cora felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. The path forward wasn't perfect or without challenges. There would always be difficult questions to answer as Kate grew older, complex emotions to navigate, wounds that might never fully heal. But they would face those challenges together, with truth and love. Cora looked down at her daughter, this miraculous being who had been born into a storm but was growing into a child of sunshine and possibility. "Mija," she said softly, using the endearment her own mother had used. "You were born into a storm, but you're going to help calm storms for others." Kate looked up, her dark eyes, so like Cora's own, wide and trusting. "I like helping," she said simply. "I know you do. It's the best thing we can do with our lives. Help others find their way through the storm."